Hi there, welcome to Cherry Pick by GameByte. I'm Brett Claxton. Today we are talking to you about the future of video games. You know, the consoles that could be coming out and all the other bits and pieces that you kind of have to talk about when talking about the future of video games. Today I am joined by...
Vicky?
And Keith. I didn't think you were going to do that.
Oh, sorry. I pointed at Vicky as well. I don't know if that was like... Should I point it at you? Do you want me to point it?
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Just start a chain. You point at me and then I'll point at you.
Then
This is
you point
getting
at
too
me.
cheesy. Let's not do that.
So the main reason I thought it would be a nice way to sort of almost start our podcast history is because this generation of gaming is very much like wrapping up. It's getting to the point where, you know, Nintendo completely ditched what their effort was, which was the Wii U, which was, I think it's not that
Bless
bad
the
to
Wii
say.
U.
Yeah, it's like it was a fine console. It flopped massively.
Yeah.
I feel that's not that harsh. If anything, that's underselling how harsh
No,
it could be.
it's
Compared to the Wii that came
Yeah,
before.
they don't even mention it. You know, it's like it's the member of the family, the black sheep. It isn't even Nintendo won't even talk about Wii U. So
It's like, here's this new game that you've never seen before. Wasn't that the game that was on the Wii U?
Yeah.
No.
I liked it. I never owned one, but I had friends who did, and problem was, and I always have this problem with Nintendo consoles. You have to have friends, which is something I struggle with. So I'm always reluctant to buy a Nintendo console straight away because so much of the content is revolving around multiplayer, which the Wii U more than any was. But like Nintendo Land on Wii U, can honestly say that is one of the most fun games I've ever played on anything. And I was pretty much the only one to ever play it. So, you know, it's sad.
I know. I like from what I played with the Wii U, it's always Nintendo Land that I came back to, and I thought it was nice. And you could tell from all the good things about the Wii U, for the most part, are on the Switch.
Yeah.
The only thing that would be nice is to sort of play Switch stuff with and using it as the tablet like you could on the Wii U.
Yeah.
But that's a small thing to sort of lose.
And more virtual console, because that was good.
Yeah. Because they obviously actually made it that there was quite a lot of the old games.
Yeah,
on there.
there were tons before that stopped. So.
And I think that's I think the main thing we'll see from Nintendo in terms of the future of gaming, because I think they've already taken their step into this generation.
They run at a different parallel now to the rest.
Yeah.
Post GameCube, they're always on a different. Like they update in the middle of the other ones, so I don't think we'll. I struggle. You never know with Nintendo, but I struggle to think that they won't keep this Switch brand going, albeit they tried to keep the Wii brand going and that didn't work. But I actually think Switch has stronger foundations with the gaming community than Wii ever did.
And I think that they're going to probably do what they've done. Well, the rumours are they're going to do what they always do with their handheld consoles, which is here's a timeline update. Some games will only work on this now, and it's just like, which has been the one thing I've loved about this generation with Sony and Xbox at least, is they've done their mid update, but then it's still a case like everything has to work on everything.
It's part of the same family.
Yeah. And it was a nice thing because Nintendo for so long have done these mid updates and not offered that. And it's like the 3DS when it had the little update it had a thumbstick and was just a bit bigger.
Yeah, pretty much. And then there was the 2DS after that.
Yeah. And like all that really added was, I think there's only probably like not many games that take advantage of it. There's not many that are only exclusive on that.
Yeah, no, not at all.
So it's just a case of like, well, why even bother? Almost like, yes, they look a bit graphically better. So I just hope they don't do that with the Switch, because I bought mine at launch. I don't want to now 2 years in the future be like, oh, if you want to play the new Mario game where Mario does more backflips than ever before, you're going to have to pay.
That sounds good. Yeah.
That would be a good Mario game. But you're going to have to pay like another 300 quid. I don't want that. So hopefully that isn't the route they go.
I don't reckon.
But it is. It's interesting just because they had flopped so badly with the Wii U and it did look like that was going to be it for them. And now it's outsold. It's already outsold the Wii U. It's outsold the GameCube now as well. And even though the GameCube was always sort of like the black sheep of that. Did you ever play GameCube much?
I didn't play on a GameCube, but I played GameCube games on my Wii.
Yeah.
It's kind of.
It's like I've heard of a GameCube. I know it exists.
Because it's a weird thing. I mean, so Vicky's obviously the youngest out of the three of us here.
You didn't have to reveal that, actually. I could have played the card that I'm only 18 or something. You just ruined that.
Your voice is too baritone.
Really? Okay.
I suppose 18-year-olds can have baritone voices.
They can.
I might play up on that more. I don't think it was baritone. Okay.
But I think I still remember getting my GameCube because I think I upper school, which I've realised this is now going to alienate myself from not just the American audience who don't know what upper school is, but most
I
of
don't
the
know
UK.
what upper school is.
No, I don't.
Literally, in the whole of the UK, I think 2 counties still have lower, middle, and upper. And
So you split into 3 schools?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Isn't that what they do in America, though?
I think it might
Were
be.
you there with like Prince Harry or something? That sounds like a upper school. That was in Eton.
I wasn't. I was unfortunately not quite so posh. I don't know if that's unfortunate. Is it unfortunate?
No. But if you had it at school, I had it at university, so that dates me.
Yeah.
Because the great story about GameCube for me is, and it's not a great story for anyone else, but I was of the generation where you only bought one console until I went to university, and I already had an Xbox and PS2. And then a friend of mine at uni, we were in little kind of halls, she wanted to go halves with me on a GameCube. So I thought, that's great. Yeah, that makes it more. Went and got a GameCube, nice purple. Honestly, that's a beautiful console.
Yeah.
Little handle on the back, so good. And then she left, and she said, "Oh, you don't have to give me the money for the other half. You can keep it." And I think I was meant to do that British thing where you go, "No, I will," but I didn't. I just said, "Okay, I'll have it." I said it was like a child. I said, "You can come and play with it when you come back." She never came back. So
it was a good thing. It's like because I was in school at the time, and it was basically a case of it'd been out a few years by this point, but a friend of mine at school was just like, "I don't want this anymore. I'm going to sell it. Do you want it?" I think it was like 150, but it was like the console with like a bunch of games as well and 2 controllers. So it's like a better deal than you'd get trying to do it through the shops. Similar way of how I got my 360. Actually, thinking about it. So it's good. It's good to have friends that decide they hate technology after like a few years with it.
It's just good to have friends, to be honest.
And that is also true. Get friends, and if you can't get friends, we'll be your friends.
okay, I'm not going to commit to that, but okay.
I'll be your friend. But I think I still remember one of the first games. I got a bunch of games, and I'm still pretty sure the one that I picked to play was Egomania, which was a fairly bad.
On GameCube.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. It was a puzzle game, but like, I'm pretty sure I got like classic games, and it's still a case of someone who'd been playing games for years. It was still Egomania that I was like, no, that's my fucking shit there. I'm going to play this random puzzle game that everyone forgets.
Yeah, GameCube for me was Super Monkey Ball. Like, especially early on, it was Super Monkey Ball, Super Monkey Ball, Super Monkey Ball. That's quite hard to say.
Yeah.
That's what I played at the start GameCube. I had the Metal Gear Solid remake on GameCube as well. It was just cool because the discs were so small.
Yeah.
That somehow made it cooler. And the fact you could change the opening intro by pressing slightly different buttons would change the music because the GameCube. These kind of things, like, you just don't get them now. No kids don't care now.
For me, it was Pokemon Coliseum, Pokemon XD, and Super Mario Sunshine.
Yeah, I
Makes
had
sense.
Sunshine. I was awful at it, but I did have it.
And that was the good thing about the Wii, which is, to be fair, it's been a big good thing about Xbox as well this gen, is... Sorry, I got the hiccups. But the good thing about the Wii was that it was backwards compatible with the GameCube.
Yeah.
And there were so many great games on the GameCube.
That no one played.
Yeah, because not that, as has already been proven by the Switch outselling it, not
Yeah.
that many picked it up. So it allowed this massive audience. Because is the Wii the best selling? I should probably know this.
Oh, of Nintendo's, yeah.
Is it? And I want to argue it's the best selling ever.
It might be. I don't know. It would be like between that and PS2, wouldn't
Yeah.
it? It's
If you,
PS2 sold gangbusters. I think we just did it in such a short space of time,
Yeah.
and then stopped.
I
Kind of
can remember like pushing for one for Christmas as a kid, and my parents literally went in every store they could like think of to try and get this Wii, and they were just sold out everywhere.
I got mine at launch, I think, for some reason, and just played. I got Red Steel and Madden because those were the games I wanted. Madden was great. Like the great thing about the Wii, that to be fair, we've seen a tiny bit with on the Switch as well, is Joy-Con stuff was actually quite fun. So like you threw the football, and it
Yeah.
was fun to do that.
And that was quite new at the time as
Yeah.
well, really.
And the Switch, like we've seen with Mario Party, at least is like it's not thinking straightforward when it comes to what to do with games. It's thinking outside the box, which has always been Nintendo's strength. And hopefully,
Well, that's what I mean. I could say like, oh, they'll definitely do another Switch, but actually they'll probably do something else
Yeah.
completely out of nowhere that no one will predict, and it might flop or it might sell 100 million in a few weeks. Like,
I mean, the Switch was a massive risk for them to do as their next one. Killing off the Wii U is a massive thing to do when the cycle still technically isn't up, but to do it with such a crazy risk idea when you've already got a handheld on the market. Because I think like they keep saying they want to keep the 3DS and the Switch separate, but is it going to be a case when the 3DS has sort of had its go that they just stop with that and just keep pushing the Switch. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. So I think with Nintendo, it'll be more what they do with the portable side than what they do with the hardware side. That'll be interesting to keep an eye on. But yeah, obviously outside of Nintendo is just weird being able to appeal to everyone and your mum. You've obviously then got Xbox and PlayStation. Xbox will obviously be looking to build up a lot of the players they lost, because it lost loads. It was the clear winner of last generation, like the 360. I mean, the Wii was technically the clear winner, but in terms of like the hardcore, I did air quotes there and then remembered obviously no one can actually see me. But it was the more...
You should say air quotes every time you do that.
Air quotes.
That's an audio tip for you, yeah.
But out of them, the 360 was the more popular out of PlayStation and Xbox.
Well, yeah, it's that weird, being a bit of a numbers geek as I am, and staying up and reading these things on Wikipedia at like 2 in the morning. 360, like US and UK, streaks ahead, like 3-1 to PS3 in the US, I think, and at least 2-1 in the UK. Europe, though, PS3 comes out on top, and obviously Japan massively. So actually, when you look at the end of the generation, they're pretty much evens on 88 million, both of them. And that's what actually the flip has happened this time. Without getting too geeky about it, there is this perception that Xbox One has done badly, which isn't true. Like, it's only slightly behind PS4 in America because the brand is that strong. And actually, even in the UK, it's only about 1 million behind. It's not done as badly in those two regions as PS3 did last time. Yeah. But because PS4 is just...
It's dominated everywhere it's gone, is the thing. And
it's not even just... I say this looking at you right now in a PlayStation Blue
This wasn't an intentional thing to wear. I just didn't have many clean clothes.
Yeah, you have to give it to Sony, like their brand management, like this generation, everything they did wrong last time, they've got on this time. And you just see PS4 everywhere. But it's what the two of them do next, more than ever, is interesting and up for debate, because Microsoft are clearly moving towards, and people have been saying this for years and years and years, but clearly moving towards now having a platform that you can play on multiple different forms of hardware. Whether that comes next time or next time, nobody knows. But I find it hard to believe there won't be a shiny black box with Xbox something on it that is the home of this. But clearly their long game is Xbox is the Netflix of games,
and that's what they're pushing. They're pushing Game Pass hard at the moment because they don't seem to have much coming out, and I don't mean that in a
well, you could see from they're clearly like loading up all these studios they're buying is for the next one. Yeah. So they've gone, okay, we're not going to come out on top in this one, so there's no point fighting that battle. Like we'll just stack our cards up for the next, because it is usually whoever comes out top the previous one, as you just kind of said, kind of comes second the next time. So. I like everyone like PS5. You're Sony, you wouldn't want to launch PS5 for years. No. Like PS4 is doing so well, but like let's just keep riding this, you know. And also the difference in terms of graphics is going to be so minute. You know, the days of there being a massive leap are gone. You know, you get the point where like Digital Foundry are doing these in-depth articles looking at the difference between Red Dead. To 90% of people, they look at Red Dead Redemption across all the platform Red Dead is on. That's a tongue twister. It looks the same to most people.
I think you'll find that this blade of grass is.
Is that what that is? Yeah, it is what it is. and the OCD part of me thinks, well, if I'm going to buy it, I have to have it on whatever it looks best on. But
I guess when you just get to the point where games are starting to look really like hyper realistic, you can only keep pushing it so much further because you're already there.
And that's the thing, and it'll be great seeing more and more power, and like graphics will get better. But like I still play PS3 games. Well, I probably haven't played for a bit, but like I remember booting up the Xbox 360 not that long ago and thinking, oh, this looks fine. And to be fair, the Switch, in terms of graphics, is probably about PS3 level. Maybe I think it's a touch above PS3 level, and they're fine. Yeah, like, I don't think
Mario Kart looks beautiful.
Yeah, I don't think at any point
that is essentially a Wii U game, anyway, isn't it? So. Yeah.
And that's the thing, I don't at any point look at that and think, shit, I just really wish that this was more HD. I'm
8K, yeah.
I think because I'm 31 and can't see in the distance anyway without glasses, I think stuff like that is kind of lost.
It all looks fine to me. It's all smudged. It's great.
I spend most of my time playing games like leaning forward, squinting at the screen, because the subtitles, they're going to go on a small rant here that I hope they do fix for next gen, is games developers just don't seem to understand subtitles.
Oh yeah, I've seen this all over Twitter this last few days. Like every game has tiny
It's like it's literally a case like we're just going to put this entire paragraph of dialogue here, so there's like 200 words to read, and it's just like just break it up in the natural flows of the conversation. Like film figured this out literally decades ago. Just follow what film has already put down and give people the chance to make the subtitles bigger if you need to. And it does seem, at least from what we've seen from blockbusters like Spider-Man and God of War and other games coming out, I think God of War has it, I hope it does, is more accessibility options. And I think that will be a big thing going forward, is just making it more accessible for more gamers. We saw Xbox obviously releasing the adaptive controller.
Yeah.
Accessibility options seems to be a thing that's coming up as a request across all platforms, even when it comes to like non-consoles, like PC games and such. Just the inclusivity of it seems to be really important now. I mean, it always has been, but there's an actual push for this now.
And that's why obviously Switch did a smart thing, because if you do want to use motion controls, it makes it more accessible for more people. So they have this platform that already it can become more accessible if they want to make it. And, you know, developers are giving more and more options there. So hopefully there'll be a case that accessibility is more obvious on next gen and it's just more dominant. But that's not obviously changing the hardware or anything really.
Tell you what is interesting, and I don't know whether it's because life is so awful now that we all have to look back, but while you've got all this PS5 and Xbox 2, whatever it happens to be called, going on, at the same time you've got PlayStation Classic, you've got the Nintendo ones, you've got Sega doing a Mega Drive next year. I can't remember when those consoles come out. If someone had come out with a console that was a classic version of a console that came out 10 years before that, everyone had gone, I want to play that, that's old. But there seems to be now this hankering for stuff from decades ago. And not just in games, actually. I think in film, TV, music, everything, actually, there is a kind of retro. And I sit back and think, is that because everything now is so awful? We want to remember when we were younger, and it's like the Mary Poppins sequel coming out at Christmas. Like, I watched that trailer.
Wait, is that a sequel?
It's a sequel. Mary Poppins Returns. Yeah, and I remember, like, I grew up on Mary Poppins. Obviously, I wasn't alive when it first came out, but you know, and that it's the same thing. Like, you think, well, Disney are doing all these remakes now of stuff that was 80s, 90s, essentially. Not that Mary Poppins was the 80s, 90s, but you know what I mean. Because people are kind of now, everybody wants stuff from decades ago when they were young, rather than in the 80s and 90s, everyone wanted the future, like Back to the Future, kind of looking like Back to the Future 2. That was the film everybody loved because, oh my God, what's 2016 going to be like? You kind of think, oh, actually, it was really disappointing. But that's why I like, without getting too independent stroke guardian about it, I kind of feel like is that what's happening, and we kind of there's all this, we're all looking forward to whatever the next PlayStation, Xbox is, and whatever Nintendo do next, but at the same time we're all like, oh my God, like you were today, will Nintendo announce a Nintendo 64 mini? We're like, well, they will. Yeah, why is everyone so excited about that? It's kind of weird. You could go down to CEX or something and buy one now, but it's this kind of hankering for the past.
I think it just comes down to money more than anything else. I think, like, in the last couple of years, like, companies across all sorts of different industries, be this like games or animation or live action films, have kind of figured out that people want nostalgia, and it's a very easy way for them to make guaranteed money without them having to take any risks. And like, some people started doing it, and now everyone else has jumped on that train, and the last couple of years has just been non-stop nostalgia, and we're still going in that direction.
But it's a funny thing as well, like the Nintendo Mini wasn't the first classic console. Sega have literally been doing not very good versions of them for years.
Terrible
and
versions.
now it's Nintendo approved, oh yeah, you can actually do this and get money from it, and they're like, oh shit, we should have done this before.
You don't have to farm it out to some random company. You could do it yourself and actually make a really good job of it.
And that's why, like, Sega are obviously putting a bit more push behind that sort of nostalgia. And I think, it is definitely what you're saying, that they know it generates money. And you, like you said, with the brand loyalty, PlayStation, when they pushed the PS4, because obviously it was the 20 years of PlayStation around the time it launched, wasn't it? Or just after it launched?
Yeah, they did that special one, didn't they? They did that grey one that looks sexy as hell.
They just pushed so much, like, that sort of stuff. It's just like, get this stuff. You can go on their store if you want now and buy a light that is triangle, circle, X and square, and it looks very pretty. And it's just like, they understand they can sell merchandise. Even Sega, who have out the console market, have just opened a Sega shop, and it's like they understand they can sell that nostalgia. Nintendo have understood it for years and like live off that nostalgia. And I'd even argue that, and this is one of my main criticisms of Microsoft this generation, was that they tried to live on the nostalgia of Halo, Gears of War, and stuff like that, but they didn't introduce enough new, interesting IPs
Yeah, they
to
didn't
care
go,
about.
we need another Halo.
Yeah.
We need another Gears of War. Like,
Because that's the thing, you've had the best Forza, you've had, well, probably not the best Halo, but it's a good Halo. You've had what is looking like it could be one of the best Gears of War, and that's all great. But as someone like myself personally, I don't care about Gears, I don't care about Forza, I don't really care about Halo. I'm not buying your console because you're not giving me anything new, which is why the fact that they've obviously bought, got the list up, so I'm actually prepared. And I could have said I've not got the list up.
I think they've bought.
I think they've bought this list that I'm reading from this piece of thing that I've got. But yeah, they bought Undead Labs, who made State of Decay, which is it's never quite delivered like a 10 out of 10 experience, but it's a promising game that will just get better and better.
It's a respected IP, isn't it? It's a good one to have in the library.
Yeah, they've obviously bought Playground, who make Forza Horizon. They bought Compulsion, who made We Happy Few. And the most interesting one is they bought Ninja Theory, who Ninja Theory are phenomenal with the stuff they bring out. And I'll probably get a few negative comments in the comment section, but DMC in my eyes was probably the best Devil May Cry, if not one of the best. It played really well. They understood the motion of it. They had dubstep, and I was well into dubstep at the time.
Of course.
And that's the thing, and Hellblade was a phenomenal game. It dealt with stuff in a weird way that hadn't really been done before, and it did it fairly well. And obviously they brought out other interesting games in the past, like, what was it, Enslaved with Andy Serkis?
Yeah.
And they've always been an interesting developer, and it's like, what if they had the money Naughty Dog has to make a game?
What could they make?
And now they do, because Microsoft have bought them.
I tell you, the way they announced that, though, at E3, with the one after the other, I was in raptures. They could have said, we're buying a branch of Tesco Express or something, and I'd have been, like, screaming at that point, because it was just, what's next? Oh, my God, they got another one. What's next? You know.
Tesco in Croydon!
Exactly. And I'm going, oh, my God! that was them getting it right. That's that's like one of those moments where you take to the stage and they know what they're doing.
And that's it. I love Ninja Theory so much that I will probably buy an Xbox for the game they have out. Although, and this is the weird thing, I was going to do it for Quantum Break, and then Quantum Break turned out to Xbox.
I quite like Quantum Break,
but Xbox shot it before it even came out because they messed up this gen in so many ways because they wanted to do something. Then everyone hated what they wanted to do. And then we're like, okay, we're not going to do this anymore, so it's this. But they'd already sort of like laid the groundwork. Like Quantum Break was meant to be TV meets game. And it just didn't work.
It kind of, yeah. I feel like this is a bit like your hidden weight kind of conversation. Like it kind of, because the perception is that they pitched it, which they did, as like the multimedia console, the watch TV and have Skype in the corner and play games at the same time, which is a load of nonsense. But and then the idea is that they rode back from that and kind of gone, no, it's a games console. Actually, they haven't. It's still the same thing it was. I have an aerial point in the back of my Xbox, so it is my TV vehicle, as it were, as God intended, as Microsoft intended. Which, while they got rid of the whatever they called it, where you could have several things on the screen at the same time, which nobody on earth ever did, apart from in promotional videos. It still is actually the same machine, but they've cleverly, every E3 since then, been like, here's a load of games, like we're literally going to throw 100 games in your face. The console, I mean, the UI has changed as they always do, but actually the console is pretty much the same. It was just a re-pitching of it. They kind of went, oh, that didn't go down well. Let's twist it.
But it's just hard when you failed the first
Quantum Break
pitch.
is interesting, though. It would be one of those games that someone writes a really pretentious article about in like 15 years.
The Far Cry 2 of like 15
years.
Well, yeah,
time. It's like the TV part was a bit CW or a bit, I don't know, a bit, they didn't quite put enough money into it. It had good people in it, and if it was on Channel 5, you wouldn't, no offense to Channel 5, you wouldn't go, oh, that's terrible, but it wasn't. The game was better than these bits of TV that they had in between, which kind of left you feeling a bit sour when you went back to the game. You're like, oh, it's cheapened it a bit. But the game was, I just wish they'd carried on with Alan Wake, because Alan Wake is, I adore that game.
You don't like that game?
I love that game.
Oh, I thought, basically Alan Wake's back on Steam, and I'm so happy for it. Alan Wake is easily one of the best games of last generation, and was one of the main reasons I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to play Xbox 360. It's like this weird, it was almost survival horror, but it wasn't. And arguably it was a bit pretentious, but like I also got the special edition, which came with a short novel. Like, the whole thing is like he's Stephen King, and
this is a Stephen King
what would
story.
What would happen if Stephen King's actual stories came to life and fucked with him? So it's like a cool little concept, and everything, the lore and stuff they built around it was really nice. And I think I've always loved Remedy. Obviously, they did Max Payne as well, and I thought they were an Xbox exclusive, which is why I was thinking maybe I will get an Xbox soon. And then they've obviously turned out that they're not, because the next game's on PS4.
Certain deals. Which is bless Alan Wake. I that and The Last of Us are both in the same part of my head. Actually, I have similar experiences with them. Neither of them are perfect, but both of them like got me.
Yeah.
Like, I played both at like 4 a.m, and you play either of those late with headphones on, and you will defecate probably.
Yeah. Of those two games, did you have an Xbox or PS3 last gen?
I had PS3. I did not have an Xbox.
Have you ever had an Xbox?
No, I haven't actually.
Oh my gosh.
So this is the question I have to put to you then. What would Xbox, Microsoft even? I always call them Xbox.
That's what they want you to say.
Oh, is it?
So,
okay.
yeah.
What would Xbox have to do for you to then decide to get an Xbox next gen?
Right, okay. So like for me in the past, I've only ever been able to afford one. So I have to make a choice. And in terms of like what Xbox and PlayStation do, in my perception, they've always been very similar. Like Nintendo, as you said, is on its own little plane where it's just incomparable to the other two. But when it comes to Xbox and PlayStation, they're very similar. So for me, it always boiled down to what games can I get on these consoles. And just because of the types of games that I like, PlayStation has always had the exclusives that I actually want to play, whereas Xbox hasn't. I've always seen Xbox as being kind of like a kind of sport kind of thing, whereas PlayStation has these more like story-driven games. Like, I guess the most recent example of this is probably Detroit Become Human. Like, that's a game I would really enjoy to play myself, and obviously it's a PlayStation exclusive, and PlayStation's just always had these kind of games, and that's what swayed me to pick that one over Xbox.
Yeah. So basically more interesting exclusives and not just rehashing Gears of War, Halo sort of stuff.
Exactly.
I think that's a Japanese, American. I think Sony has always had strong ties in Europe and Japan for those kind of adventure games. Even if they're American games, there's kind of a different grounding, whereas Microsoft is a bit more guns and glory, kind of, we want the loudest console out there, we want it to, American football and kind of that kind of thing, which Microsoft is... I find them endearing because they try so hard. So that's the most important thing for me. Trying. You don't need to succeed. Just try.
And I think games will be the thing that I think will change Xbox. I know you're saying like the games were there, and they were, but in terms of games you could only play on Xbox, like Xbox's big thing has been also it's a console exclusive, but it's also on PC, whereas PlayStation has always been, it's a console exclusive.
Yeah.
See, that's the other thing. I'm a PC gamer as well. So a lot of the time this is the case. Like stuff that's on Xbox is also on PC. So there's just no point for me really to get an Xbox most of the time.
But I mean, in terms of what we can expect from it, obviously more graphics, some other odd things. It will be a home console. I don't think they'll do a Nintendo.
No, I think both of those two, as in Sony and MS, will keep on keeping on what they're doing. They better Connect and iToy and all these things where they try to do. Sometimes they're successful, sometimes they're not. But this essentially they have to. That's what they know. There's no point trying to out Nintendo because you fall flat on your face.
So in terms of Xbox, I feel like we kind of sort of said everything that needs to be said. They've made some very interesting hires, and I think they'll be gearing up to like some very interesting announcements at E3. I would expect consoles to start getting announced either this year.
I think
not this year. Next year.
Coming E3, I think it's a definite. Those two.
Like I would be shocked if one of them doesn't say, "Okay, yeah, we're doing the announcements," and Xbox just need to get me to buy on launch, which I haven't. The only consoles I've ever bought on launch are Wii and PlayStation 4. To get me to buy on launch, it has to be here's a bunch of big games. Here's whatever crazy stuff Ninja Theory are doing. Here's a really cool take on something that you haven't played before. And Xbox has always sort of slightly failed at doing that, I suppose. well, not failed, but just like this gen, it feels like they didn't have a PT moment. They haven't had the Nintendo Switch moment in my mind. They had the initial pitch of here's the Xbox One, and then everyone was like, that's fucking shit, and which it wasn't, but it meant that it always feels that they've been on the back foot, as we sort of said, like for most of this generation.
I think I'm a bit more superficial, so if it's a shiny box, I'll buy it. And that's literally, if it's a shiny box, it's got a nice name, I'll buy it. I've owned consoles where, I remember buying my PS3, not at launch, but I barely had anything for it. I have, ever since having had all of them, I now have to have all of them.
Yeah.
So I barely play my PS4, to be honest. It's a FIFA playing machine, it's PS4, that's all I've got on PS4 and Mafia 3, which I've been replaying. Otherwise, like, I think I like, as a superficial person, I generally interested to see what they call it, what it looks like. I think that says a lot about where they're going. Like the games, I mean, they're both going to have games. They're like, yeah. I know that sounds a stupid thing to say, but they are both going to have games. And in another world, Quantum Break was a massive hit, and that could have been enough to kind of been the linchpin for that launch. It wasn't not, but it wasn't. So you're never going to know until you actually play them whether they've gone the right way or not.
Yeah.
But what you can say instantly is the direction, like the unveiling, wherever that happens to be. I suspect at E3 we'll get like a bit like the Project Scorpio announcement for both of them. We'll get like here's what we want to do, kind of, we're not actually going to show you the box, we're not going to tell you the name, but here's what we kind of aiming for, kind of flashy wank fest.
But Xbox have obviously already said, we're making it, this is some of the stuff that's going to be in it, hasn't it?
Yeah, but you'll get like some arty shot of like, and it'll be I mean, honestly, that Project Scorpio announcement, I must have watched it 100 times because it was just a piece of marketing excellence. Like, doesn't matter what they did after that point, just the way they announced it is like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't bought one, but it's still like, I watched that video. And so you'll get that from both of them. Like, they're both very good at skinning things. Like, so we all know it's going to be called PS5. Like, there's no way they're not going to call it that. So that one's already gone. But you'll get some like pretentious kind of nonsense video where you see shapes in shadows and stuff. And
I imagine it, like, I think the thing that helped PlayStation this gen that it didn't have on PS3 is it just made it so much easier for developers to get their games onto it, which was an issue on from what I've heard from people, is like the PS3 just was a bit of a nightmare to develop for, whereas the PlayStation 4 is like, yeah, it's easy, come do it. And for the most part, it had decent ports, and a lot of the time, obviously, it ran better than the Xbox version. But we're seeing now with the Xbox One X that is performing better than the PS4 Pro most of the time, and I think it'll be interesting to see who puts the most horsepower into the next console.
I tell you what interests me, what shade of blue will they go for? Because they've gone for quite a bold blue with PS4, so what do you do? You know, PS3 was kind of black, wasn't it? So
it's such a superficial...
Well, you like kind of think, well, they've run out of blues. Like, what will they do? Will it be light blue? You know,
sky.
Will it be red? Like, what will they do? They can't do red, that's Switch. Like, so... To
be perfectly honest, like, I would have waited to get a Switch if I couldn't have gotten one with the colourful controllers. Like, the grey ones are just so boring.
They are,
It was the same when I got a 3DS as well. Like, at the time, you had the choice between either, like, Cosmos Black or something blue. And, like, I'm such a colourful person, I was never going to get anything other than the blue. And luckily for me, the blue one was the one they still had in stock. So I didn't have to wait, but...
See, I got the, like, grey Joy-Cons. I don't know if that just reflects my dull personality.
It's just like the two...
Monotone.
Red and blue seems like the way that's done seems a bit Nintendo, kind of like... It looks more like a Nintendo console somehow just by having those colours on it. You kind of go, oh, it's Nintendo.
So obviously I know that I asked you, Vicky, like what would make you get an Xbox because you've never owned an Xbox before, and obviously I was curious. I know you say you got a PlayStation 4, but you know you've only
played... my
played...
second PS4.
Why have you got a second PS4?
Because I bought a 4K TV, so... actually, no, that's not true. I got it before I got my 4K TV. I think I was just... I wanted FIFA last year.
Why not get it on...
And then
Xbox?
I was just going to go and buy FIFA. I was just going to go buy it, but it's like 60 quid. Bear in mind, when I was a journalist, you didn't used to have to buy these things, as you two surely know. So I was a bit annoyed. I was like, I'm going to have to pay money for this game. That's annoying. Why don't I pay more and actually buy a console to make me happy? So I went in and I traded in. The best deal, actually, because I think EA had done a deal with Sony last time, was PS4 Pro and FIFA 18, as it was. 18? Yeah. So I traded in my PS4 and got the new one, and I have to say, it's exactly the same. Like honestly, you could even on a 4K TV, it looks no different. Like and I missed the light in the middle of the old PS4. Like it has a light down the front, but it's not the same.
When you said that, I thought you meant the console itself looked exactly
Oh no,
the same.
no, wait. It's got the hidden weight on it. It's not hidden weight on the Pro. It's quite clearly weighty. Well, it's nice, but I can't say it isn't a great leap. And so the number of games I play, and this is a bad thing to admit on this podcast, the number of games I play these days is smaller anyway. So it's not like I'm playing like 50 games on my Xbox and 2 on my PS4. But I want them to take a few more risks. And I don't know what those risks are. But if I'm going to be there, I was pretty much there on, not quite at launch, but almost at launch of the PS4. If I'm going to be there at launch of PS5, as well as it being a nice shiny box with a nice logo and a lovely shade of blue, assuming I want them to do something slightly different. I don't know what it is. I don't know.
Would it be like something like VR or AR or something like that?
VR, I think, has a long way to go, and I think even Sony realised this. It's not where they want it to be, and I'm not sure it will be where anybody wants it to be, even whenever these systems come out. So I don't know. I feel like that's something the problem is if you launch VR at the same time as your console, you kind of almost nullify the console itself. I think they will wait a couple of years before doing another PlayStation VR for whatever their next console is.
And like obviously because you are quite a pro VR gamer, Vicky.
Yeah, I have a Vive.
So what would you say is do you think like it's fine as it is, or what would you improve about VR?
In general or on consoles?
Both really. Like what is needed to VR? Because like if you improve VR in general, it improves it across consoles as well in theory.
When it comes to VR, it tends to be about being smart about the games that are made for VR. Like you can't run hyper-realistic experiences in VR and not have it tank at like 20 FPS, which you can't do. It's all about immersion and making sure, like, just simple things like you can see your hands, you can pick these items up, is what gets you immersed. So I think VR is almost about taking, like, a Sony Nintendo approach, about taking risks but being really creative about it. But, I mean, for me, using VR, the vast majority of things I do in VR are social or just, like, singular experiences. Like, the other day I might have watched like a film in like what was a VR cinema because it gives the illusion of you watching it on like this huge screen, and that's really cool. Or like I might pop into a game, like stuff like VR chat I still use just to go talk to people, and it's really cool, and that's how I use VR. So VR isn't at a point yet, I guess, where it's a console in itself, I suppose, but it would be cool to see it, like the technology develop so that you get better graphics, get better immersion, and you can do more with it. Yeah,
and get rid of the wires as well, as I imagine.
That's happening already, actually.
Is it Oculus who got that coming out soon?
I'm not sure about Oculus. I know Vive's got like a Vive Pro where it's got rid of the wires and such, but like that's expensive and it's like a big add-on, and it's still got ways to go, really.
It's weird because before we came on air, all she could talk about was VR porn. She just said, I want more VR porn.
Excuse me. People are going to think that's serious as well.
Yeah, just cut. No laughter. Just cut at that bit.
It's not
throw
serious.
me under the bus.
Keith is joking about, and if Vicky's mum is listening to this, he is not being serious.
I'm not. Rarely am I.
But I think that's the thing. I think I like that PlayStation 4 kind of played it safe because I feel the PlayStation 3 put too much into it. That was
quite literally.
Yeah, which was meant people just didn't buy it as much. And as you said, like, yeah, it did pick up in the later times in its life.
The thing about the PlayStation VR is that it was almost marketed like it was a gimmick rather than it being its own thing, its own genre, which is the difference between like PC VR and console VR, in my opinion. Yeah, I think it just needs more work to make it its own thing rather than like an add-on, like the iToy or all the previous ones that have been.
I think that's almost where I see Sony going next gen. Here is also the PlayStation VR accessory. I genuinely think they might bring out another Vita, but the focus of it would be to treat it more like a second screen and have it so you can. They tried to do that with the PlayStation 4, and it just didn't really work. I remember trying to play Destiny on my PS Vita, and it was just like,
Oh, see,
this
I
doesn't
remember
work.
that, but like I haven't heard about it for like years, and that says a lot, doesn't it?
I'm pretty sure games still support it as well as the other thing.
Yeah, it's just that nobody supports Vita. So
Yeah.
it's kind of...
And it's the unfortunate thing. And it's like I will always stick with Sony over Microsoft for the most part. And my main reason for that is I love Japanese RPGs and stuff like that. And
They're always going to have the upper hand.
yeah,
in that.
Microsoft will have a few every now and again. Obviously, 360, you got Blue Dragon and a few others. But Sony will have the consistent, more just like weird, quirky Japanese stuff. And that's why they tend to interest me on that side of things. But I would really like to see them take... The thing is, I don't want to see them charge more money. But it's almost a case of like, it just seems to make sense to me that you have a portable, almost like a Switch sort of thing you can have for your PlayStation 5 that you can sort of take with you if you want to go play The Last of Us 3 on the go.
Well, yeah, I think though, without like going on some half-hour rant, I feel that was always Vita's problem in that both PSP and Vita's pitch was play your home console games on the go, and everyone went, no, I've already got them. I don't like. Why don't I want to? I think what Switch does really well is you can have the big experiences when you're on the bus, but Nintendo know that they need to cut stuff down, whereas Sony were like, play this huge game that usually you'd be playing on a massive TV and devote hours to while you're in the queue at McDonald's. And kind of, I don't think that was a convincing sell. I think if they ever do handheld again, they'd have to do handheld. Like
It makes a difference with the Switch as well that it is just one console that you can either take with you or dock, rather than like with the PlayStation, they are actually two separate things that you're using like it's one, but it is actually isn't.
This is why I feel they'll go for something weird and hybrid. Maybe they won't. Maybe they will just play it safe again. But like, I think for the most part, Sony feel they have the advantage, and they've just announced another sales like record. I think they're nearly at 90. I want to say, which is a lot.
Sounds about right.
90 million, not 90.
I bought two. So, yeah.
And the thing is, like, they've done well this gen, and they've got. I mean, Sony in general hasn't actually performed that strongly for a while. The PlayStation brand is propping it up quite a bit, and it's why I just think they'll do something that will grab people in. They'll keep releasing these interesting games. I imagine they'll hold off. I don't see Horizon Zero Dawn 2 coming out this gen. I wouldn't be shocked if it comes out as a launch title for PlayStation 5. And that's the thing. I imagine we'll start seeing that very soon, of just like stuff that they've been holding on to release. I genuinely feel that we are in probably the last year to 2 years of this generation by 2020.
Save the Earth. I was going to say, yeah, probably.
I mean, probably that as well. But yeah, by 2020, we'll have new PlayStation, new Xbox.
It's been long enough now, I think, with this generation.
Yeah, and it almost feels Microsoft's already wound down in terms of bringing out games. You've got Gears and Halo.
Apart from my ones, which are great. But
yeah. And you've obviously got PlayStation's got Days Gone coming out soon, and there'll be a few others. But for the most part, it just seems there's not much on the horizon. And The Last of Us 2. Sorry, forgetting like the game everyone's waited for this generation. But I think once they're done, that almost feels like the swan song.
Well, it's funny because The Last of Us was almost the sign-off for PS3,
Yeah.
and now The Last of Us 2 is probably going to be the sign-off for PS4. So.
Yeah, and it makes perfect sense. Whether or not they do well, I think will rely entirely on not just a strong launch title, but also how they're going to treat indie games, which Nintendo, the Switch and the PS4 saw lots of success because they treated indie games with a lot of respect. And Microsoft, you can see, have been trying to clamor that back and like make less strict rules to indie developers to try and entice them to it. And I think people will buy the console because of the next Halo or the next The Last of Us and stuff like that, but they'll definitely like pick it up. They'll definitely like keep playing it because of these smaller titles that you can play again and again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's kind of wraps up what we think of the future of gaming and the state of this generation.
It's bright. The future is bright.
It is bright. I think it's a genuinely exciting time. I feel it'll be everything will just become more social focused.
It's going to be an expensive time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that as well.
Not for you, because they'll be sending them in the post, and they'll be gold plated. You'll get some diamond encrusted PS5 with your GameByte logo on it or something. Yeah.
I'd like to clarify, we graph for like most of the stuff we get. We bought our PlayStation. Let it be known that GameByte bought its own PlayStation. We weren't given any handout, but if
it
you
is
would
diamond
like to give us a hand.
We'll gladly take them.
If you want to sponsor this podcast,
So this would normally be the part of the podcast where we have lots of lovely listeners, like, you know, emailing us in saying, "Oh, I've got this question. What do you think of this?"
Okay.
We have
Optimistic.
at least 3. Some
Vicky's mum.
Vicky's
Yeah.
mum, your mum.
No, my mum's not.
And Brett.
Yeah.
I'm not telling my mum about this.
I'll email myself, but I'll put I've got a mustache. I suppose I don't have to put a fake mustache on to email myself though.
No, but please do it just so I can laugh at you.
So yeah, this will normally be where we answer questions, and you know, just email us in. You got anything you want us to talk about? If you want us to talk about a particular game or a particular franchise, we'll happily debate it.
Just want to abuse Brett, just send them in.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it will probably just be insulting me.
I'll send these emails if you want.
But yeah, any questions you might have, make sure to email us. But it is also the time of the podcast where we mention some of the most ridiculous things that we find around the internet. And we even have a jingle, so let's play that. The focus I wanted to go here was some of the sort of questionable comments that we get on some of our videos, particularly our viral YouTube hits, which I believe is how we should plug them.
You are so plugged in.
Viral hits. Yeah, for those of you who don't know GameByte, we had a member send. Oh, we had a member. For those of you who like don't know much about GameByte, you know, you don't follow us on social, which is stupid. You should be following us on social. So make sure to search GameByte everywhere and follow us.
So smooth.
All right,
It's a
Mr. Tangent.
smooth transition.
I didn't even notice you were doing it.
With Brett Claxton. But if you do follow us on social on YouTube, you might have seen that we released a video a while back called Boogie Bomb, which the best way to describe Boogie Bomb was a member of the GameByte community sent in a song saying, "Me and my brother have decided to cover Little Pump's Gucci Gang, but make a Fortnite song out of it called Boogie Bomb." And I thought it was brilliant. Like they were fully aware that it was like they were being comedic, and it was like, "Oh, can we make a video out of this?" Yeah, you can. So we did, and you can find it on YouTube. It's hilarious. It's got over 8 million views, and people
8 million.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people absolutely love it. With comments ranging from "This is the worst thing ever," through to
But I still watched it.
This is
Yeah.
my favourite thing.
Yeah.
There's no in between. It's either I really like this
Smart,
or this is the bane of my existence.
So speaking
That's
of
the internet, isn't it? But yeah.
Yeah.
And because of this, we end up with lots of strange comments in there. And the one that I want to read out is from someone called Christian Castillo, who,
Good
yeah,
name.
it's a very good name. I don't know if it's his real name or,
Inadvisable to use your real name, but yeah.
yeah, I mean, you shouldn't really do that on YouTube. If that is your real name, I apologise for ruining.
See, our names aren't really Brett, Vicky, and Keith. They're just our fake.
I'm actually called Vicky.
I'm actually
and
called, wait, no.
I just stole your son.
I'm actually called Brett. No, wait.
That was what I was going to say was the issue.
We're all called Vicky.
But yeah, so the comment from Christian is one of the musical breakthroughs of our generation. For years, we have been growing up in the shadow of the millennials, associating with them. We are associated with the problem they cause and the horrible ways of life they endorse. We Gen Zers are a different case. We are the new hard workers. We are the artists. This song proves it. And I'm going to leave it there because it gets a bit...
I was I can see there's a lot more lines.
There's a lot more lines, but it gets a bit too weird. But just...
Is this irony?
I think it's irony.
Is this what humans call irony?
And you'll be able
is he
to-
being serious?
You'll be able to hear and make up the decision yourself if it is irony, because we're going to play a snippet of Boogie Bomb right now for you.
Boogie bomb, boogie bomb, boogie bomb, boogie bomb, boogie bomb, boogie bomb, boogie bomb.
Spent 10 hours playing Fortnite.
Yeah.
Been camping airdrops all night.
Ooh.
I killed a noob, I just got his loot. Opened a chest and got a gold scar.
Ooh.
Rather have a boogie bomb in my hand. Boogie bomb, boogie bomb, boogie bomb.
Boogie bomb, boogie bomb, boogie bomb, boogie bomb.
That is Boogie Bomb, as you will agree. It is the musical masterpiece and the musical breakthrough of this generation. I'm sure you both agree.
I've not seen it, but you know.
You meant to lie. It's just been played on the podcast.
Great.
You've ruined the illusion of the podcast, Keith.
I went to the toilet while that was on, so yeah.
But yeah, if you would
How many
like-
likes did that? How many? Could you thumbs up, isn't it, on YouTube? If someone
Like the
posts a comment?
ratio between likes and dislikes.
that particular
Yeah.
comment or the video
Both.
in general, that comment I don't know, which is not helpful. But on YouTube, Boogie Bomb, which is, as I said, 8.2 million views.
I like that you did a voice for it as well. That wasn't your own voice. I went if you're aware that you were talking in a different voice there.
It's called acting.
Oh, okay. That's acting, right?
It got 110k likes up and 14k likes down.
That's 14,000 people watched it and then said, no, I don't like that. What are they doing with their time?
But that's what the best thing about YouTube is when you post gameplay of a game that people don't like, and then it's like thumbs down. It's like I've got nothing wrong with your video.
You didn't
I
make
just
the
don't
game.
like this game. It's like, okay, thanks for that. If you've enjoyed the Cherry Pick podcast, please do make sure to leave a comment. Leave a review on podcast pages, or if you're seeing this, wherever you're seeing it, leave a like, leave something positive. Please, we're very fragile people. Don't be mean to us. But until next Wednesday, I've been Brett.
I've been Vicky.
I've always been Keith.
Are you sure?
Definitely. Ask my mum.
Hello, Keith.
Don't go down that path again.
End it.